Hi guys, how are you today? It is cold, it is wet, it is dreary. You'd think it was November. But yeah. We are in full splendor here in New Brunswick, and last night's rain knocked most of them down, so we have leaves everywhere out there. But it's a perfect day to stay inside and paint. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to paint Santa Claus today, merry and bright. I like this piece. I thought it was a fun one. So it'll be a fun thing. It's not as hard as you think. So don't get all freaked out about it. It's not a difficult piece to paint. You're going to enjoy this one. It is a lot of fun. And I have a few things to cover. One of which, I got to tell you, is this. Check this out. It's got my name on it. And then on the other side, check out the skulls. I love this. One of our viewers, followers, acolytes, subscribers,
cult member,
makes these. They're incredible. She does a beautiful job of them. And Dawn Lavelle is her name. So if you are skimming around Facebook, she's got a great little spot on there where she makes and sells these. Freaking awesome. I love mine. The other thing that she sent was this. If you're a pen person, which I am, I have pens everywhere. Oh, look at this. It's got a little artist palette on it and the skull. And I just love this. So, Dawn, thank you so much. I really do appreciate this. You made my week. I got more skull stuff. And it's skull season. It's skull season.
Got skulls everywhere.
I have skulls everywhere. I'm wearing skulls. My leggings have skulls and roses.
It's like glittery black, glittery purple.
It's a dark blue. It's beautiful. It's really nicely done, too. I love it.
You got cranberry juice and water in
I
there.
got my cranberry juice and water in there. That's my beverage today. But yeah, skull season. I'm dripping in skulls. Even my ring is a skull. So it's the time of year. I love my skulls. So I've had a couple of gifts arrived in the mail in the last few weeks. One was a bowl cozy from my pal Denise, and I absolutely love that. And then I got this great Go Cup, from Dawn, and fabulous pen. You guys are spoiling me. It's great. I've been so excited to open a box these days because I never know what's going to be in it. And I'm just so thrilled when you guys think of me. And I love this. I was looking at this yesterday, and it looks as if these skulls were painted with asphaltum. The color is perfect. Couldn't be better. So, Dawn, thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. We've got stuff coming up. Renee and I were discussing December already. I know it's not even the end of October yet, but we're kind of planning ahead. So we were discussing things for December, and we're going to do our 12 Days of Christmas again. That was one of our most popular lives, and so we're going to do that again. So I've been collecting up goodies from all sorts of people, from all of our sponsors. So we've got goodies from Southern Ridge Trading, from Cupboard Distributing, from Decawart. We've got goodies from Country Bear. We've got goodies from Dynasty Brush. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff in that bin in there. So as we did last year, there's going to be a gift for every day of the 12 days of Christmas. So 12 people are going to go home with a tremendous goodie bag.
Planning.
Planning. So that's what we're planning for December for the 12 days of Christmas. So we will be posting more about that in the next few weeks. So just keep a lookout on my Facebook page and on the YouTube community tab, and you'll see what we've got up our sleeves, because we're going to have a fun day that day.
We already got something pretty cool for next week and for Halloween.
Yeah, when we've got a Halloween project for next Saturday. It'll be ideal if you've got littles at home. If you have tiny humans at home, you're going to love this project.
Demons. Minions.
Minions, yes. If you have, or grand minions.
Grand minions.
If you have grand minions. So yeah, we've got a great little project. It's a fast and easy one, and it's fun. I can promise you. It's going to be a lot of fun.
There's minions, and then there's Peons?
Peons? No, peons would be like you. You're a peon.
A peon, okay. A subservient?
No,
No?
children are not subservient. Don't kid yourself.
Sure. No, I'm thinking like grandchildren.
Grandchildren?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they
So
would just be
if
grand
your son
minions.
is a minion,
hmm
what does your son's son make?
A grand minion.
That seems like it outranks the minion.
It does.
No.
If you're a grandmother. Grandchildren outrank the children. Any grandmother will tell you that. I don't even have grandchildren, and I can tell you that the dog outranks you. So I have a grand puppy.
Grandpuppy.
All right. So what else do I want to talk about? I'll hint. We've got a big project I'm working on right now.
Big.
Should be ready in a couple of weeks. Hopefully.
Oh, and it's not just for members either.
No, it's for everybody.
If everybody.
Yeah.
Big.
It's big and I'm excited about it, but we'll get more on that. We did add some new stuff to the website this week. We have a few brushes on the website. And then we have this. I'm excited about this. This is, I like working with mechanical pencils, and I'm always looking for one that works really, really well. And this one has been awesome. This one's a 0.0 or is a 0.7, so it's not too thin. The lead doesn't break all that easily. They're refillable, which is really nice. I don't like the disposable ones. And they're super easy to use. And not only is the lead refillable, but so is the eraser. And so you can turn it all the way up and all the way down. I love this thing. It's fabulous. And it's got that black eraser that doesn't polish the
Look at
surface.
that. You got a whole whack of them.
I did get a whole whack of them.
I wonder why.
But yeah, these are fantastic. So we put those up on the website this week. And what else? New Craftgasm bags went up this week. And so we restocked on all of the stencils, and we're waiting on some other surfaces and whatnot. Phone stands will be in soon, and a few other new things that we're adding.
Oh, joy.
So I got a bunch of new surfaces coming in. So I think that about covers all of the news.
Oh, yeah. OKC Painting Palooza is next Saturday.
Yes, Painting Palooza is next Saturday. So I thought we'd do something simple and fun. We're just going to go and do that little Halloween goodie.
Whoever's going to that should broadcast her live there. Be funny. She couldn't be there, so...
Yeah. No, sadly it can't be there, but...
Can you be there digitally?
Not really. I suppose I could do a live that... Well, I am going to do a live that day, but yeah. Well, we're going to do some Halloween. Have some fun with Halloween next Saturday. And it's a simple project, something really super easy and inexpensive to do. Almost everything in it you can get from your local dollar store. And it involves neons and glitter. I'll say that.
I won't be here next Saturday. Just saying.
It's just a little bit of glitter. You'll be fine.
We'll get on the dog.
No, it
I don't
won't
know
get on
how
the
it will, but it will.
It's like glitter. COVID. 9 people are working in a room and 1 person has glitter. How many projects have glitter? All of them.
All
Okay.
the glitter.
All the glitter. So if you guys are ready to get started on Merry and Bright, so am I.
Woohoo! Clickety click.
Clickety click. So this is Merry and Bright. I love this piece. It's a fun little portrait. I thought it'd be fun just to show you how to do some simple textures. And hair. I don't know how many people have asked me about doing hair.
Hair textures?
Hair textures and whatnot. I have a simple technique for doing it. I was talking about that with Deb yesterday. She goes, how do you get the hair to look like that? And I said, oh, it's not that hard. And she said, well, hers is like 12 layers. And I thought, oh, mine's 3. But we're going to show you how to do all these hair textures on our Merry and Bright. As I said, it's not a difficult fella to paint, but there are a few steps. So we're going to tackle that. It's easy, it's breezy, and we're using 2 stencils for this one. And I keep trying to find something to do with this new star stencil we got. So I'm using the snowflake stencil. Either one of them will work. I just happen to like this one with these little, you know, this lacy looking snowflake. This one's my favorite. And Prim Star. We haven't really done anything with this one, so I thought this would be a fun one to use. So we're going to use these two stencils, and then we're going to get started on this piece. And we're going to start with our background. Now, I used True Blue. I know it looks really bright on this. And so True Blue, which is that deck word Americana.
I believe it's an 8x8 canvas.
It is an 8x8. And I'm just going to get my brush wet with a little water. I've got one coat on here, but I want to have a wet coat of paint on here for the next part. So I'm just going to brush a little True Blue. Lots of water in this. I just need the paint to be wet. Okay, that's good enough. And it's on one side because I'm going to go from this corner down. So while the paint is still wet, you're going to take Ultra Blue Deep, which is this dark, bright blue.
Dark. You use dark and bright in the same sentence.
I know. It is a brighter blue, but it's deep and dark. And I'm going to take that dirty brush and I'm going to pick up a generous dollop of that Ultra Blue Deep. And I'm going to put it into the corner like so. We need a fair amount. So.
And the blue underneath's still wet?
The blue underneath is still wet. And so we're going to crosshatch, which means you're just going to use an X pattern. Like so. And then you're going to pull it straight down. And then straight across. And just let that color run out. And then straight down again. And this will give you a nice soft blend. And then you can do it again. If that's not dark enough for you, do it again. But it's always that cross hatch, and then straight across, and then straight down. I've got something in my brush here.
Looks like a little bit of black.
Yep, Mother's not happy about that. There we go. Okay, cross hatch. There we go.
How do I find out more about your paid monthly club?
Oh, the paid membership. If you look at the top of my not my Facebook page, the top of my YouTube channel page, there is a little blue button that says join. I think it's blue.
Yes.
And then just click on the join button and it will walk you through the whole process.
Yeah.
So I've got my blue. Now I'm going to dry this real quick.
We're on the bed to talk about what you should get.
Yeah, and well, there's all kinds of perks to being a member. I mean, we have a variety of challenges through the week. You can download your free pattern every month. We have a free class every month for members only. And plus there's a variety of videos and various challenges and freebies, and you get your own special discount code for my website. And from time to time, some of my sponsors will offer you bonuses too. So you have the ability to get discounts on some other sites as well. Okay, so I goofed, so I have to fix it.
And there's Don Lavelle.
Hi, Don Lavelle.
We talked about you.
Were your ears burning, honey? We were talking about my cup. I love my cup. So essentially what we're doing is just creating a dark area in the upper right-hand corner. Now I completely pooched this because I got water in there. And there we go. That's better. So now essentially what I wanted was a darker corner up here. So when you look at this dry one, you'll see that the lighter blue is all along the face here, and then we've got a darker corner up here. The reason I wanted it darker up here is because of those bright stars that are going in there. We really want them to pop off of the surface, so I wanted a darker corner up here. And coming almost halfway. So I'm going to dry this.
Renee, yours is coming. What? You're making me a cup? Awesome.
You are so spoiled.
I am spoiled. Not only that, I lost my other great cup.
Yeah, he lost his other go cup.
I don't know whether I lost it at the art museum that I was doing security for, or the hockey game.
But either way, you lost your cup.
Yeah, either way I lost it. Probably got ran over by a Zamboni or something. I don't know.
So he's Saul's cup.
I am Saul's cup. But I am never without coffee.
So I'm going to dry this, but I'm already seeing that I want it a little bit darker in that upper right-hand corner. So I'm going to put a little bit more in. I just want to get it really dry so I'm not pulling more paint off than I'm putting on. Because that would be about my speed today.
It's clumsy today.
Oh my gosh.
Hands moving faster than brain, or
My brain is moving faster than my hands can. That's the problem.
I have that problem with my mouth.
Yes, I know. You need a speed bump.
My brain needs a speed bump. Brain moves faster than my lips sometimes.
Okay.
Sound keeps fluctuating.
That might be on your end. I don't think it's on ours.
No, I don't think so. Everything's nicely connected. And yeah, it looks good here.
Renee's been fretting over the sound thing,
Yeah,
so.
I'm watching that sound bar going, doing its thing. And the second it freezes is usually when it.
There we go. Okay, now I'm happy. It's dark enough.
Now the drum.
I'm gonna dry it again. All right. So essentially, we just want it darker up in this corner and then lighter from the center down. Beyond this midline, it doesn't really matter what happens, but because we're going to go right over it. So you, like I said, you should have a darker value in this corner and brighter down here. And it's going to give us a nice contrast for his face. And it gives us a nice rich background that we can work off of. So that's as difficult as that is. So you can see we've got a nice deeper corner here and then lighter coming out this way. So our background is all set. So I've got my guy already base coated. And we're just going to walk through these base colors. I can find a brush that doesn't look like the cat dragged it in. There we go. So for the hat and the robe, I'm using Country Red. I've got 2 coats over top of this blue, but there's nothing to say you couldn't put a coat of gesso down. But I have 2 coats of Country Red over top for the hat and the robe, and it's also what I used for those berries on the holly. The beard is slate gray. Just 1 coat. He doesn't need to be fully opaque. You just need to get a fairly good base down. But yeah, slate gray for that.
Ooh, hold on. I just got YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. What? Error. Crap.
Does that mean we're...
No.
So the fur trim on the hat and on this robe are done with the burlap. Now, I had a couple of people post saying they weren't able to find burlap. Well, you can use khaki tan. Any one of those soft beige colors will work just fine. And if you're really pressed, you can even use antique white. Those will all work. We just need a fairly neutral tone in there for what we're going to do next. So even, like I said, a little khaki tan or cobblestone will work, or driftwood. Any one of those tones will work just fine. Fawn is another one. It will work just fine for what we're going to do in there. And then for the face, we're using this color, which is Cotton Candy. I like this one for flesh tones. It's nicely opaque. It works really, really well for those softer skin tones. And it's just such a small area. It's about 1 square inch that we're doing in there. So this one is going to take 2 coats to get nice coverage on this face. I'm going to grab a small round for this.
Yeah, we should be good now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just the hiccup.
It was a hiccup. A YouTube hiccup.
That's internet. I can't control that.
So the face, I want a fairly good coverage on this. So I'm going to make sure that I get at least 2 coats of this Cotton Candy on his face. Now I paint in each of the segments of his face as cleanly as I possibly can. And I do that thing where I just come to the line so that those details stay there so I don't have to trace them back on, because I don't like retracing things. That's just me. So I want nice opaque coverage on here. It is a face. We don't want to see gray sticking through this, or dark blue.
What was the color for the face?
Cotton Candy.
Cotton Candy. Suiting. It's sweet.
Sweet. It's appropriate.
It's appropriate. Is the demon asleep?
The demon is asleep, yes. We're referring to Soot, in case anybody is wondering.
The demon is the cat.
Yeah. She's been torturing Gizmo. Mind you, Gizmo is...
She's been trying to kill you.
And she's been spent the week trying to kill me. So, I like his face nicely opaque. And then inside the eye, just going to use a little titanium white or warm white inside that eye. And a little of that ultra blue deep for the eyeball.
Will white paint blue?
Yes.
To the face?
Yep, absolutely. All you need is something close to a flesh tone. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to pink it up a little anyway. So, and then for that, the colored portion of the eye, right here, I just used a little of that ultra blue deep, that same dark blue that we used in that corner.
What do you mean, poor Soot?
Poor Soot. Oh my gosh. Soot is our senior citizen. She's, what am I saying?
Officially a senior citizen.
She's officially a senior citizen. She's lost a couple of teeth recently. And she's spends most of her time sleeping.
She has 1 canine.
Yeah, she has 1 canine too. Yeah. And she forgets that there's nothing there to hold her tongue in her head anymore. So she walks around with her tongue hanging out. So, and I haven't figured out if that's intentional or not.
I think it's just tude.
She has an attitude.
Did you base him with gesso prior to adding the colors?
I did not.
Why not?
It really wasn't necessary, to be honest. I don't need fully opaque coverage for all of this because it's just an undercoat. So I didn't really worry too much about it. So I've got 2 coats on his face, and I'm going to shade his face first. I like doing the face first, simply because I like to see how it all comes together. And so we're going to shade his face first, and I'm going to use a 3/8 angle. Use whatever you're comfortable with. I like this 3/8. I find a 1/4 inch is a little too small, but I like this 3/8. And our shading color is, you guessed it, asphaltum.
Who knew?
Yes, who knew? So,
What was this?
there was a question.
Yeah. If you don't have ultra deep blue, what color can you use?
Oh, that's easy. Go to, you can use ultramarine. You can use any nice deep dark blue will work just fine. Royal Navy will work. Don't be afraid to use a little Prussian. Prussian blue will work too. You just need a darker value blue. It's all going to be blended in anyhow, so.
What brand brush do you use? Nothing but Dynasty.
Nothing but Dynasty. I only use Dynasty brushes.
She's the Dynasty girl.
Yeah. So we're going to shade the cheeks. Now I'm going right up to the edge of that beard. I'm actually not worrying too much about going over it. And I'm just going to put a float of asphaltum in there. Comme ça.
I have a senior kitty too. My guest brought her home when she was a junior in high school. She's now 33. He's gone, but still has the cat.
So I'm shading into and up to that eyeball and down that cheekbone along the edge of the nose and into the nose. See how we got this little rounded area? You're going to shade there too. And the side of the nose.
Oh,
And into the nose.
Edward can't stick around today.
Well, Edward's probably got fun stuff to do.
Apparently they're packing Mama up.
Ah! So he has important stuff to do, looking after Mama. Edward, you have a great day. Say hi to your mom for me.
And Sheila Landry just entered.
Hey, girlfriend. Miss Sheila. So I'm putting a little float of that asphaltum underneath that eyebrow. And then you're going to need to put a little float this way. See that little line above the eye? It's in the fold of the eye. We're going to put a little float right there. So now we've got our face taking shape.
Ooh, there's a good question.
What's that?
If I was painting an African American Santa, what colors would I use?
Ooh, you know, that's a great question. And I'll show you something. Starting with a darker color is never a good idea. You're better off to start with a mid value and then work out. And I stay away from anything with too much gray in it. Look for things that are really nice and warm. And so here's my suggestion. And you're going to need to put a little bit of red in that face because otherwise it's just going to look flat. So look for a nice soft red. I tend to lean towards a country red because it's got a little brown in it already. Start with your mid value. Try the sable brown because it has a little bit of red in it. So it's a little pink already. So it's going to have a nice warm tone. And then for your highlight, look at a color like burlap, and you're going to use it very sparingly for your highlight tones. So here are your mid and your high tone right there. And then a little asphaltum is not a bad idea, but you're going to need a deeper brown. And then I would look at either some burnt umber or even some dark chocolate. I think I would lean more towards the burnt umber because it's got a warmer tone. And it has a little more red in it. So for doing like African American skin tones, I really like these. There's that mid value, your darker value shading tones, and then these that burlap or one of the cobblestones. It's got to be a warm neutral, something like that. Even sable. What is it? Not sable. What's the color I'm thinking of? Pebble. Pebble is a really nice neutral as well. It's a little bit darker than the burlap, but again, it's also a warm tone. So those three would make great flesh tones for an African American skin tone if you wanted to do it that way. That's a great question. Really a great question.
Yep. Hold on. Apparently we have no data. YouTube is not currently receiving data. And we're back. YouTube was not currently receiving data from your stream. And if you believe this is incorrect, ensure you're sending the stream and that is configured in the correct stream key. We're all good.
Okay. Just making sure. So I've got some highlighting in there. The one thing you have to remember when you're doing eyes, you have to have a shadow underneath that lid right on the eyeball. And it's intimidating to put it there because everybody figures it's just going to make a brown eye. But even if it's just a tiny little line, it has to be there. So I'm just putting a little float. Okay, I'm not putting a little float. I'm going to use a liner for that because I'm not getting anywhere with this. Here we go. So I'm just thinning out a little asphaltum for that, but there has to be on the eye. Here we go. Underneath the eyelid, there needs to be that little. There. So that little line is underneath the eyelid. We do have a giveaway today.
We do?
We do.
We do.
We have a giveaway every Saturday. So yes, we have a giveaway today. We have a rake brush. We have some rake brushes. Those aren't rakes.
Those are fuglies.
Those are fugly brushes. The rakes are 1/4 inch. They're a black gold brush. And let me show you. This is a 1/4 inch rake. So 3 of you are going to win one of these, plus we have some other goodies. But we're going to show you how to use a rake today. And while I'm at it today, we're also going to show you how to use a filbert wave, so that if you don't have a rake, how you can use a filbert wave to do the same thing. So we're going to show you 2 things today with that. And those store prices also have some stencils included and a few other little odds and sods. So we're going to have fun for this. And that black gold rake, I believe, are available from the Brush Guys. So if you're looking for the black gold rakes, you can get them at thebrushguys.com. And don't forget to use your Tracy M as the coupon code. That'll give you a little extra discount. Okay.
Which do you prefer, painting Christmas or Halloween?
Christmas.
Really?
I love painting Christmas.
Yeah, we... as far as I can remember, which usually can be only about a week.
Short-term memory loss.
When it came to Christmas and decorating the house or the tree, the one thing that the men in the house didn't do was that. we kind of just
get out of my way.
Step back and just let it happen. We don't touch anything. We don't move anything. We do the heavy lifting, and that's it.
Yep.
Just sit back and watch.
Okay, so I'm using, this is a decorator series. It's a number 4. It's a dry brush. I love this little one. It's soft, and it's perfect for doing those rosy cheeks. And I just took a little of that base color from the robe, which is that country red. And I'm just going to dry brush a little of that right onto the apple of his cheek. And I'm going to do the same thing to his nose.
There's another Tracy in here.
Is there?
Yes, Tracy Jones.
Hi, Tracy Jones. Does she spell her name right?
She does spell her name. No IEs here.
No IEs here. So I've got just a little dry brush on the bridge of the nose and on the tip of the nose with that country red and on the apple of the cheek. And he's taking shape very nicely. So I'm going to switch to another dry brush because that one's already got red in it. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of warm white.
Yes, I spell it correctly.
She knows. She knows. And I'm going to take a little bit of that, a little bit of that warm white, and we're going to put a little highlight on the nose. Just like that. So those little highlights, they just serve to soften up our Santa a little bit.
How can you tell when the brush is dry enough to do dry brushing with?
First off, I never get this brush wet till I'm ready to clean it. And second, I pick up a very tiny amount and I swirl it. And when it stops streaking, like obviously with white on my palette, it's not so easy. But you can test it on another surface or on a piece of paper towel just before you go to it. And if color transfers like so, nice and soft, then it's ready. But if you get any streaks, any harsh lines, you'll know that the brush is not dry enough yet. So that little bit of white.
Those are good questions today.
Yeah.
A lot of it doing with color.
So next, we're going to start adding a few little details to our Santa's face, and one of which is going to be that eyeball. We want a nice little dot of white on the eyeball. And then I'm going to take some asphaltum, and it is thinned. And I'm going to clean up a couple of lines. I want these to be a little more, oh my gosh, I can't get this paint thin enough here. There we go. So there we go. I'm just putting in a little sharper detail on a couple of things around that nose. And then we want to get some little creases around our Santa's eye back here, and I'm going to do that with a little bit of white right here. And I want them to be like little crow's feet. If they don't go out, then he's not smiling. If they go straight back, then he's not smiling.
Is that the right part number? 206 RK?
Yep.
For the 1/4 inch.
1/4 inch rake, black gold rake. Yep.
Just in case you're looking at
Yep.
brush, guys.
Yep. And then for a final highlight on that cheek, I like a little dot of white. And the same with his nose. Little dot of white. And there we have our Santa's face.
You could almost leave them like that. Almost.
Almost. So now we're going to move up here.
What? I thought she said brown that nose.
Okay, that's just wrong.
Hey, you waterboarded Santa last year.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
Santa's not off limits for.
That is true.
jokes.
I've come to realize that nothing is off limits in this house.
New.
So we need to create a little bit of depth and texture on this hat. So I'm just using a little thin asphaltum to put in some shadows on this hat. I'm just paying particular attention around this holly for the time being because this is where I need that darker value. So there we've got. Now, I'm going to create some texture on this hat, and I've got thin asphaltum all through this brush. It is not loaded to float, it is just loaded. And I'm going to do this. We're going to just pity pat some asphaltum in, like so. Nothing fancy. It's going to look a little messy, and that's okay. And we're going to do the same thing around this hat on the pom-pom there. Neatness doesn't count for this. There's no extra points. And we're just creating little texture. And we're going to do the same thing on this. I'm going to call this the collar or the robe, the edge of the robe trim. And it's not going to be perfect by any stretch of the imagination. We're just creating texture. There we go. So I'm going to dry that. This is a super easy way of creating a texture or implying texture. I mean, this is fur. I don't want to compete with this fur to compete with his beard, so I'm using two different methods of getting the texture of fur. So I'm going to dry that real quick. And this part is really fun. So we're going to use a little bit of warm white for this, and I'm going to thin this out really well. And Laura just asked me a quick question. The canvas size is 8 by 8. So I've thinned out some warm white, and again, quite transparent. I'm going to turn this upside down, and I'm going to do the same thing again, overlapping with a little warm white. Now that white is heavily thinned. I don't want this full strength because then it'll be obnoxious. It'll be too bright. We don't want that. So by overlapping that white over top of what we've already done, that asphaltum and that burlap, this helps create a little more texture. And see what happens when that's thinned? It creates a different look altogether. And then I'm going to do the same thing along the edge of the robe. So it's really loose layers, just sort of tapped in.
Leopard print Santa?
Kind of. Kind of. But it does change the look of this drastically. So imagine if I had tried to do, a hair-like texture on this, and then this, it would all look like one piece, even though they're different colors. But by using a slightly different method.
I
This-
have never found that color.
Which color?
Asphaltum.
Love asphaltum. It's my favorite color. DA 180.
Did you water down the asphaltum for the fur?
I did, yes.
Thinned it out.
Everything gets thinned out quite well. And then just that little layering system where you just put little pitty pat layers over top, it creates a really nice texture on that fur. And we're going to take it one step further with a deer foot. So this is a black gold deer foot. This one's 1/4 inch. And I'm going to pick up a little of that warm white. And I'm going to tap the brush on the surface. I tap it on my palette like this, because I don't want a ton of paint in it. And this is how we're going to highlight this texture. We're just going to use a little bit with that deer foot. Nothing too heavy. I don't want to be too heavy-handed with it. But this little bit of texture from the deer foot, you see how it just creates a little fuzziness?
Wow, I can't even finish that sentence because you're just gonna laugh at me. More? No.
What are you looking for?
Shop.
There we go. Just like that.
There he is.
So that little bit of texturing with the deer foot just softens things a little bit, gives it more of a fuzzy appearance. And if you want to, you can take it past the edge of the hat. But that's how I do the fur on his robe. And now I gotta grab I dropped my angled shader, the one with all the white in it.
Oh! Could you use your high-tech applicator to do the white
On
the fur?
the fur, you could if it was large enough, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you don't have a deer foot, what can you use?
You know what? A deer foot works really well, but you could use one of these, which is a angled wave. You just need something that is going to create an irregular edge, a little bit of texture, something that you can tap on. So I like these. A filbert wave will do it too. Another one that I do love using is, this is another deer foot. So you may have something like this at home, or something, even a dry brush will work. Just, you're going to tap it as opposed to like rouging it on. That's the word I was looking for, rouging. So now I want to deepen the shading around this hat on the... So I'm just going to take a float of asphaltum. I know you all saw that one coming. Just to deepen it. I want it a little bit darker in here.
Oh, that's easy, B. Williams. You don't even have to be subscribed to enter the giveaways.
You just leave us a comment in the comment section. Like the page. I mean, subscribe. That would make us really happy.
Yeah. All you have to do is like the live.
Yep, like the live.
The other half you already did.
Yep. Here we go. All right, so I've got all my shading done. I think I'm happy with that. A little spot under this leaf here that needs doing. There we go. So I'm thinking I'll come back and adjust some of that shading a little later on. But now I really want to get to this beard because I think that's what everybody is looking forward to. So let's get to the beard and then we'll finish out our Santa. Now, I'm going to use, aside from our base color, I'm going to use some warm white and I'm going to use titanium white. So I've got titanium white on my palette and I've got a little bit of warm white on my palette. And I'm thinking I need a clean palette so that I can show this properly because this is, I'm going to move him over here and I'm going to put the palette right there. So warm white is color number 1. Color number 2 is titanium white. Color number 3 is some asphaltum. I know, terribly surprised. So these are the 3 colors that we're going to use to do this beard. And his eyebrows, because don't forget the eyebrows. And our brushes of choice for said beard is my 3/8 angle and my 1/4 inch rake. And I'm going to bring in a little bit of Joe Sonia's because that's important. I love my Joe Sonia's. That fast dry glaze. I'm almost due to freshen it up. So we're going to, first thing, we have to establish a base layer. So we've got a base color in here. I'm using slate gray because I want some contrast. Santa's beard is never really snow white. So we're going to start with a darker value, and I've used that slate gray for that. And we're going to start putting in our first layer of the beard hair. So we need to get this brush good and wet. I'm using a little Joe Sonia's. And we're going to pull out warm white. And I need it quite thin and runny. So the brush should look like this. Do you see that? It looks like it's full of paint. And then we're going to stand the brush up on its ferrule like this, press down firmly, and then twist the brush between your fingers. See how the brush is opening up? So when I lift it up, all of those hairs are splayed, and it still has lots of paint in it. So I'm going to start right here at the top of his beard under his mustache. And I'm going to put a stroke of little hairs, like so. It's okay if it goes over that blue, don't worry about it. And we're just going to start pulling in some strokes, like so. You want the paint to be very thin so that it flows off those tiny little hairs easily. And I don't pull them in a straight line. And it's okay if some of them overlap, like so.
Do you prefer that on gray palettes?
It works better on a gray palette because you'd be able to see the brush splay better. But I have not been able to get a Gray Matters palette lately.
Do you ever use asphaltum? Do you ever not use asphaltum in your projects?
I think it's happened once or twice. Once or twice. I use it for everything. It's just that, you know, some people like burnt umber for a lot of things, for antiquing and whatnot. I have never been a big fan of burnt umber for that purpose, so I use asphaltum for so many different things, and it is, you know, my preferred toning color. So
Do you create a puddle with the warm white?
Yes, I pull a little away from the main puddle, and this little patch here is my thinned paint, so that I can come back to it. And I like to I've always used that sort of S and C. If you notice, I'm putting layers in, but I'm always following sort of an S pattern.
Mhm.
And I like to start from underneath that mustache because we're going to do a lot of work from that point. And you will notice that I'm not worrying about whether or not it stays within the confines of that initial shape. If it goes past the edges, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, because we all know that beards don't always stay where they want them to.
As we have daily proof.
I'll always get one straggly one.
So, and I like this, little curls here and there. So there's layer number 1. I'm going to take this down over the edge of my canvas here. There we go. So there we go, layer number 1. Now I'm going to rinse out my brush and I'm going to dry the beard. Now I do this beard in 2 stages. So I do the mustache after I do the beard. So I'm going to make sure this is good and dry because I don't want to pull off all that fine hair that we just went to all that trouble to put in there. So now we're going to do a little bit of work with some asphaltum. And I'm going to thin this color out quite a bit. I don't want it full strength. And the first place we're going is right underneath the mustache. I'm putting a float all the way around in there. And we're going to come up underneath that pom-pom. I want a nice float of asphaltum under there. And then that same little bit of asphaltum, this is what we're going to do. We're going to put a few little curls. I'm just floating a little asphaltum into some of those curls in the beard. Like so.
Going for the Scottish sheepherder look.
I guess. But this is going to help give us more texture and more depth to this beard by the time we're done. I like that little bit of texture in there. And then we're going to dry that. Now that is just a little float and it's inside some of those little curls. I just followed the shape of some of what we've already done. And I'm going to dry that. And then we're going to come back to our rake. And this time we're going into the titanium white. And we're going to do exactly what we did the first time, except we're going to do it a little more sparingly. So again, I'm going to come up, start here. And there is those little highlights make a huge difference to this beard.
Are you going to be using neon fiery red on his suit?
I'm not, but it's a great idea. Now that you mention it,
She just might.
I just might now. So that little bit of titanium white over top of that gray and over top of that warm white is what gives us a little more texture without having to do 10 layers of things. It looks nice and loose. I love the texture of this. But I'm only using a small quantity of white. I'm not using a ton of it. But I love how it just creates this really nice texture in that beard. And then we're going to repeat that with the mustache. So, mustache, I'm coming back to the warm white. And you'll see why I've done this in 2 stages in just a second. So I'm starting under the nose.
Scottish Shepherd? Yeah.
Father Christmas.
No, Scottish Shepherd.
Yeah.
I hope my mustache never connects that high.
Well, I don't think Santa's actually does either, but
Yeah.
extremes. So I'm just taking that little bit of warm white. I want to come over. I like to extend it past. It just gives us a nicer overall texture. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this one. And this is one of the reasons I chose the 1/4 inch for this, is because those little spaces are hard to get into with a big rake. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the eyebrows. Just a little bit of texture. Grab my angle again. I'm going to dry him. And again, I'm coming back to my thin dish Faltum. I blend it out really, really well. And it needs a little shadow here where his mustache separates. And we need a little bit here. And we're going to put, remember that little float that we put in the beard? We're going to do the same thing to the mustache. You need to have that little extra texture in there. And then again, right into that titanium white. This is our highlight color.
You can see how somebody's having a hard time finding the like button.
Oh, on the...
I don't know if what device they're on.
Yeah.
So I gotta find your live. So I have an idea of where it would be.
So there is the highlight.
No.
Oops, I've got too much paint in my brush. There we go.
Oh, well, it's a quick update.
So whenever you're feeling that it's not quite giving you what you want, don't be afraid to extend past the edge. Now remember that mustache? We want those little hairs to go overlap that shadow that we put in. So make sure that you let those overlap so that you get that nice furry texture. So there we are. I do like that furry texture on my Santa. So there's our highlights. Don't forget a little highlight on the eyebrows as well. There we go. Now you can come back in with that angled shader and a little asphaltum and deepen any little shadows that you feel may be a little wanting. I'm finding one here that is not quite where I want it to be. And you can tuck a little extra shadow in under that beard without having to completely refloat that shadow. But don't be afraid to deepen things. And then we're going to separate that beard from the robe, and I'm going to pull a little float of asphaltum along the edge of the robe, like so. Just to deepen it and to separate the two. I want to get a little more definition in there. And we'll put a little bit in when we start doing some line work with that uniball. So there is our beard. He comes together quite quickly. So our next thing to do is this robe. And I realized that in my hurry, I neglected to put that line in. There's a little fold in the robe. So I'm using a little bit of alizarin crimson for this part. I love this red. It was the color of the week this week. Alizarin crimson. Love this color. This is the shading color for that country red, and it is not a harsh shadow. But check this out. So I'm going to float a little alizarin crimson in there. Now, if you don't have alizarin crimson, Tuscan red will work. Deep burgundy will work. We just need a darker red value, that's all. So I've got a little along the edge of the hat, and then right here, there is a fold in the hat, and it's just a float like so. And then we're going to do the same thing right here. There's this fold in the robe. And we're going to do that same alizarin crimson up underneath the robe, the edges of this robe, right here. Red on red is always so rich, especially alizarin crimson, because it's such a deep, very transparent red. I've had a few people ask about, because I talk about colors being transparent or being translucent. If you go into the free educational materials section on my website, there is a opacity guide that you can download about all of the DecoArt Americana colors. It's a chart type document on PDF, and it will tell you which Americana colors are transparent or translucent, so that it gives you an idea of about opacity when you're painting, so that if you're trying to select a color, there's nothing worse than trying to get a fully opaque base coat for a color that is fully transparent. So I gotta grab my eraser and fix something, because I laid down a graphite line and I'm not happy about it. I should have used my chalk pencil for that. I didn't. I used a pencil. So now I have to fix it because I'm not happy with that.
Yes.
Well, I should have used a graphite. I should have used the chalk pencil and not the graphite pencil. I know better, but I did it anyway. So, I whoopsied. Now I gotta fix it. Some days the elevator doesn't go to the top floor. Some. Most of the time, pretty good.
I'm stuck on basement level. I find myself using the stairs. Takes a little longer, but I get there.
Yeah. Okay, much better. All right. So I'm going to dry this, and then I'm going to give one more coat on that hat because it needs to be a little darker. There we go. I want to come back up here just a little bit, make this a little bit darker. Beauty.
Can I see the original?
Yep.
I want to see. Oh, I know what you're doing.
There's some fun stuff. There's lots of fun stuff to do in
that's
this one.
different.
What's different?
I like how you did the lettering.
Oh, yeah. We want the lettering to glow. So I'm going to dry this.
Wait a minute.
What?
Is there glitter on this?
There is glitter on that.
It's on my thumbs.
It's dry. Get over it.
It's on my thumbs.
Oh,
Ew.
such a wuss.
I don't like glitter. It gets everywhere.
I like this. I think it's a fun piece. So our next step, now we've got the shading in. We need to highlight this hat. And that's when we're going to come back to our dry brush and a little bit of warm white. I'm staying away from the titanium white. I prefer to use the warm white. And we're going to put, I just want a sort of a frosty highlight on the top of the hat. So I'm just using this very softly. And on the edge of this little fold here, I want a little bit. I kind of want this just to have sort of a frosty appearance. I don't want it to be a perfect highlight. I just want to place one. The thing about working on the canvas for this particular piece is that it works in our favor, kind of gives us that soft frosted look.
They're quoting you now.
Why? What did I do now?
I know better, but I did it anyway. Story of my life.
Yeah. So again, I'm just using that little dry brush to highlight that little fold. Because I like that. And Bob's your uncle, Sally's your aunt. Our robe is done. So we have just a couple of little things left to do. We're going to work on these berries. I'm going to switch to my... I've got one coat of country red on these berries. Not quite enough, so I'm going to quickly just tap in another one.
Oh, Jessica's daughter's got Lyme disease.
Ooh. I'm sorry to hear that.
Is going crazy trying to figure out how to change her habits as she takes medication for Lyme disease for the next 28 days. Apparently, she's had it for a long time. She's had symptoms after symptoms until the point she could barely stand on her legs. She's had to give up soccer because she hurt so bad.
Oh, poor kid.
Problem with Lyme disease is it could sit dormant in your system for such a long time.
Yeah, you don't know you have it until you start developing symptoms.
Yeah. And symptoms vary from person to person.
Which is why it's so hard to diagnose.
Yep.
So, the little holly leaves in here, I just base coated mine with antique green. I love this color. Antique green is my favorite green, in case you guys hadn't noticed. I use it in almost everything. If there's a leaf, it's probably antique green. That and matcha green, my two favorites.
Yeah, that's what we originally thought Dot had.
Yep.
But her test came up negative.
Yep.
So it was actually one of the first things they tested for.
Yep. I've been there. I got tested for that too.
I've been tested for these. It's a quick blood test. Speaking of Dot.
Yeah. She sounds like she's on the move.
She's on the move.
So, antique green for the leaves. 2 coats will cover that blue quite nicely. I'm not really too worried about it covering perfectly because by the time we get the highlight and the shading in, it won't matter. I just want to get that shape. I think the shape is more important than anything. So, there we have holly leaves. Now you could put whatever you wanted in there. If you just wanted to put something else in, if you're not keen on the holly, you could put whatever you like in there. So I'm going to dry that. I love Santas. I'm a big fan of Santas at Christmas time. So, shading colors for the leaves. We're going to use plantation pine, and we're going to use matcha green, and I'm going to use my 15-aught liner for most of this, except the shading. So I've got a 15-aught, and I'm going to switch to a 1/4" angle because these leaves are tiny. So, get that brush nice and wet. And plantation pine for the leaves, and I'm using, as I said, I'm switched it to a 1/4" angle for this. I don't usually go for really tiny brushes, but I'm making an exception in this case because it's just easier. So I'm going to shade the bottom of the leaves like so, just a little float closest to those berries. And this is just going to sort of set the shape. And then where the leaves overlap, and then a little in there, and this leaf is in sort of tucked underneath that pom-pom, so a little shadow there. And again at the base of the leaf. And I'm going to do the same thing on this one. Now I'm going to dry this real quick. And then we're going to do that center vein. It's just on something this small. If I try to do the shading down the center vein right away, I end up taking off more paint than I put on. So I'm going to shade down the center vein of this leaf like so. There's one. And this one goes that way. Now, if you're not sure about the placement, like which side the shadow goes on, have a look at the line drawing. I usually show you the curve, and you're going to shade into the curve. So there it is. There we go. So I've got all of my shading in. And then we're going to put the highlights in. That's that matcha green, that brighter green. And Renee is back, if anybody had a question.
Trying to remember which most did what.
So, highlight color is that matcha green. And again, with that 1/4" angle, it's teeny tiny, but it will work.
How old are you? Yeah. How old are you? Old enough to know better. Young enough to not care.
Yeah, old enough to know better. Young enough to still recover without medical intervention.
Jessica, how old is she? Oh, I think.
Oh, her daughter.
Her daughter.
She's just a teenager, so.
Oh, 17.
Ouch.
Oh, no, that was. Jack Russell was recently diagnosed with Lyme disease. They discovered it when they did her heartworm check. She is 17, and we thought she had arthritis.
Aw, poor Buffy.
I will be super ticked off if she ever gets another blood test and it turns out she does have Lyme disease. And that's the cause of the whole issue.
Yeah, I don't think so, though.
But after the CT scan,
Yeah.
that kind of let us know what was going on. So,
Or in this case, not.
yeah.
So I'm using a little of that matcha green to add a highlight.
Daughter's 14 years old.
Oh, poor baby. So hard. I mean, 14 is a rough age anyway for a girl.
Yeah.
Well, it's a rough age for any kid, I think.
Teenager.
Yeah, but yeah, throw in a few health concerns and
Especially Lyme disease.
yeah, because it's just not nice.
And it's not all that common.
No, and it's difficult. I know for some it's difficult to treat depending on when it's found.
Yeah.
Okay, so berries. We're going to use a little bit of that. I've got a little Prussian blue in here. You can use any shade of blue. You could use that true blue. You could use that ultra blue deep. I just decided to be different and use the Prussian. But I'm just putting a little shadow on one side of these berries. It's a super simple little float. We're not really looking for the minutia for this. And then I'm going to use a little warm white to float in a little highlight on those berries. I'm trying to keep that line drawing in place because it's got the lettering on it and I want the placement properly. So that's why I'm trying to keep this thing where it is. There we go. So I'm just going to put a little highlight on these berries. That's too much. And it's just a tiny little float. Where's my liner? There's my 15-aught. Now, like I do for most of my leaves, I'm going to add a little detailed line to the outside edge of these leaves, and I'm doing that with a little matcha green.
Do you ever use Payne's Gray for shading?
Not very often. Payne's Gray is one of those colors that I just never gotten into the habit of using. It is a great shading color, but I tend to lean towards asphaltum for my neutral, for doing that type of thing. I know Miss Sandy uses Payne's Gray all the time, but my color tends to be the asphaltum for that.
Sometimes I use Diox Purple for shading my berries.
Yes, I love Diox Purple for shading berries. It's such a pretty color for that. So I'm just putting that like I usually do. I usually have a loose little outline around my leaves, and I'm using the matcha green for that. And it's just loose. I'm not worried too much about getting it, too terribly accurate, to be honest.
Sandy McDeer loves Payne's Gray.
Oh, Sandy uses Payne's Gray all the time.
I wonder if her ears are burning yet.
Sandy's teaching a class today. She's Zooming today.
Oh, is she?
Yeah.
And
So
then
she
got
has
a
her,
live tomorrow.
and then she's got a live tomorrow, I believe.
Nice.
So, her's a busy girl.
When's Deb going live?
I think Deb's on webinar in November. She's got a live on live class in November sometime. I don't know if you guys been watching her group page, but oh my God. She's been doing the most amazing things. So I've got all my leaves outlined. Now I'm going to put a little highlight. I'm going to dip into some titanium white. I want to put a little punch on these berries, like so, on that highlight part.
Me and that brush do not get along.
I love my 15-aught. The trick with this brush is to make sure that you've got lots of juice in it. It needs to be juicy. And I'm just going to take a little Payne's Gray and a little antique green. I'm just going to stroke in a couple of little vines, just because I like vines. So there we go.
Whose group is that? Oh, Deb.
Deb Antonick's group. She's got some of the cutest things on her group page. paintingwithdeb.com. You want to go check out some really cute stuff she's been doing. She showed me some light bulbs that she's been working on.
Light bulb?
Yeah, she had light bulb shapes cut, and she's been doing some really cute things with those. And the little Russian, you know the Russian dolls? The ones that fit inside each other?
Okay, yeah.
She's done a series of little ornaments for Christmas using that shape. They are so stinking cute.
Okay, they call it.
I keep wanting to call them perestroika dolls, but I know that's not right.
I think they're called maternity dolls, or
No, it does start with an M, but I can't remember. But she's got some just gorgeous designs using that shape. They're so cute. Okay. Hat's done. Fur is done. The beard is done. The holly is done. So now we can talk about doing some stenciling. And we're going to start with this one. This is the Prim Star. Now, I like this big one.
nesting dolls.
The nesting dolls, yeah. But there's a Russian name for them. Deb had it. So I'm going to grab some painter's tape. And I want to secure this stencil in place. Oh my gosh. Acrylic tips and painter's tape don't get along. Grab my palette knife.
Macro shaka?
That's, yeah, something like that. I don't know. Perestroika seemed to fit. So I want this this big star, this large star, to be more to the right-hand side. I want it to sort of fit right into that dark area that we have. And I'm going to grab a small stencil brush. And our color is Sunny Day. So I have a little Sunny Day on there. And I'm going to load up my brush. Now the brush should be almost dry. So don't forget to tap it on some paper towel because we don't want to bleed. And holding your stencil in place, you're going to work in a circular fashion. And you're going to change directions frequently.
How do you pronounce that?
I have no idea. I'm not, my Russian's not so good.
Open it, get one doll. Open that doll, get another doll. Open doll, plutonium.
Okay, so I've got one coat of that Sunny Day on that star, and now I'm going to let it dry. Now I taped it in place for a reason, so I can dry this. And then I'm going to do it again. because I want this yellow quite opaque. There we go. And then in the center of that, I want to pick up a little bit of not warm white, titanium white. And I want to put a nice bright spot in the center of that. And then I'm drawing it out from the center, out a little bit, so that I get this. So it gets a little brighter in the middle of the star. So there, we have star number 1. And I'm going to dry that.
Which yellow is that?
Sunny day.
Sunny day.
And then I'm going to grab this medium one here, is going to come up and to the left and tape it in place, and we're going to do the same thing. So the reasoning behind having that dark blue in the corner is that we're going to get a much brighter contrast for these stars.
Weird. We got another no data warning.
Huh. And yet, here we are.
Welcome to the live dawn.
And then once that little bit is dry, we're going to pick up a little of that titanium white again. And there we have that nice bright star. And we'll dry that.
That's the secret to great stenciling.
The brush should be almost dry, using small quantities of paint. If you tape that stencil in place and you use an almost dry brush, you can put layer after layer after layer without ever worrying about whether or not the paint's going to bleed underneath it.
And there's my Karen.
And then I've got one more, that tiny little star, the smallest one on here. And I'm going to repeat that process. Almost dry brush. And then a little bit of that titanium white in the middle for that nice bright star. And there we go. So we have our 3 stars in place. Nice bright. I like it.
Are you following the rule of 3?
Rule of 3, yep. And there we have nice bright stars. And so now we're going to trace on our lettering. So I have been struggling to keep this blessed thing in place.
Blessed.
Well, it beats there's the other word I was going to use, but blessed works. So I'm just going to tape it in place so it doesn't move. And I'm going to use a little bit of white graphite, but I'm also going to use some black graphite because otherwise I'm not going to be able to see this lettering on top of his white beard. So I'm going to use my red pen.
Do you need to use a pointed brush or a flat stencil brush?
A flat stencil brush is always recommended simply because you're going to be able to get more paint on the surface. I've never cared for domed stencil brushes. I just don't find they apply the paint as...
I think you're back on.
Oh, are we back on? There we are. Yes, we're back.
You're back?
I just saw me.
It's
that camera.
Yeah. And this is great. There you go. So you can talk to them. The microphone's working too.
Oh, good.
Well, I guess.
Sorry about that, guys. We got going and the computer decided to update for some unknown reason. So kind of cut us all off. So I'm just finishing up putting this lettering on. I just want to check to make sure it's not very good. I think I need some new graphite paper.
Give me 1 second. I gotta adjust the camera again.
So he's just adjusting things a little bit. And we'll be back on track, I think.
Because the autofocus is going ham. Autofocus.
Oh, goodness.
It's not one thing, it's another, right?
Always.
Fly. Done. And transition.
There we
And
go.
we're back.
And we're back. Sorry about that, guys.
Yes, you're a little fuzzy.
I'm a little fuzzy. I'm always a little fuzzy. Okay, so I'm just tracing on the lettering for this. We're going to use a number 2 or a 0 rigger to do this lettering. If you're not comfortable using a bigger brush in a small space, then try using the 0 rigger for this. I'm just going to make sure I can see everything, and I can. So now I can take this off. If I can. There we go. So take my line drawing off. So I have my lettering transferred on. Oh, by the way, we just got some more of these in. We also got the white ones in and got the black ones in for those that were looking for them. Almost forgot about that. So, Merry and Bright. Now, the lettering for this is going to be pretty simple. I'm going to use just a little bit of warm white. But before I start painting it, I want to show you how to shade this. So this is where that little bit of, it's a 1/4 inch, there's my 3/8. This is where a little bit of that Prussian blue, or if you prefer, you can use that Payne's Gray Sandy uses. Payne's Gray will work well for this too. But I'm just going to shade a little bit inside the letter on the right hand side on the beard. And all this does is help lift that lettering off the surface. I like to have that little bit of a shadow in there so that the lettering is easier to see, because in this case it's going to be white on white, so I need something that's going to lift it off the surface. And I am reluctant to use the asphaltum for this in here simply because there's already asphaltum in that beard, so I need something that's going to separate the two. So I'm using just a little bit of Prussian blue for this.
I'm going to see if I can't zoom in on that.
Just a little. And all it's going to do is just lift that lettering off of the beard. So, lettering color, warm white.
There you go.
We need it nice and thinned out. It needs to be about the consistency of milk, maybe a little thicker, so that we can get it to flow off this brush nicely. And I'm going to start with the upper portion of this M. So I've tapped the brush till it flattens out, and then I'm going to press down till the brush opens up and fills that space. So there's the first part of our M.
If it's not one thing, it's your mother. She had nothing to do with it. Nobody had control over that one. I am, however, going to turn off a bunch of settings. I almost don't want this laptop to be connected to the internet, but we have to. Otherwise, we can't broadcast. The sole purpose of this laptop is to control the cameras.
Yeah, and that's all it does.
And that's all it does, but it has to be connected to the internet so it can broadcast it to you guys.
So there I've got Mary. I'm going to do the same thing to bright. So this is where you'll see what a difference that shadow makes right off the bat. If I didn't have that shadow in place, that white would be difficult to see.
What is the name of this brush?
This is a number 2 rigger. It's a Dynasty Faux Squirrel. And
Focus is a little fuzzy.
if you're painting with me, it is an absolute must. Because I put lettering in almost everything, and this is my go-to brush for doing any kind of lettering.
A little fuzzy. Get it stick.
Oof. I think I got a little too much. So the nice part about that rigger is that when you turn it on its chisel edge, you can do wonderful things like this. So it will also do all of those little fine lines. So if you're not handy with a rigger or with a liner brush, you will like a rigger, because it is not the same thing. It is not built the same way at all.
Wow, this camera is very clear. I see the brush strokes. I thought it was because of all our rain.
So I'm switching over to my 15-aught because I want to use it for a couple of little finer lines that I have completely messed up here. I want to... There we go. And then we've got a little line, this little swirly line here. I wasn't getting anywhere with it. And this one is a dilly.
Oh. Deb Antonik. Damn, I missed the beard.
It's okay, Deb, it's recorded.
You can watch it as many times as you want.
Yeah. Miss Deb and I were having a discussion the other day about beards. She does those adorable little gnomes, and she was saying that it takes her like 8 coats of paint to get where she's going. And I can do it in 3. So this fun little bit in here, the word "and," I like doing that with this opaque pen. That little opaque white.
The "and" is a different font.
It is. American Typewriter is the font that I use.
Why'd you go with a different font for "and"?
Because of the size. It's very small, and it would be almost impossible to read if I matched it. So,
Okay.
for the sake of clarity, I switched the font. And then I just used my opaque white pen to trace that on. So now we have to highlight this lettering so that it stands out nicely. And I want it to be highlighted by the color that we used for those stars, because that is the light source. We want nice bright yellow.
Deb called you a show-off.
Did she? So I'm going to use my 15-aught liner, and I'm going to heavily thin some of that sunny day. And I'm just going to pull a few strokes of that yellow at the top of the letters. I'm only going to come down about 1/3.
You didn't cross your T.
I'll get to it. I forgot to put the dot in bright too.
Go over the eye.
Yeah. It's okay. So I'm just using a little of that yellow with the liner, and I'm just pulling it down from the top of the letter because that's our highlight. Oops. Okay. I goofed again. There we go.
Did you just use the cheek scrub method?
I did.
Wow. Yes, cross the eyes.
Yep.
And dot your T's.
So yeah, I like that little bit of yellow on the top of the letters. This is our highlight color. It doesn't take much, but on that white, it stands out quite nicely.
It was the way here when I refreshed it. It's clear now. Oh, okay. I don't know where that conversation came from, but
So that little bit of yellow is just enough to highlight the tops of those letters. And now I'm going to go back and pick up some white and cross my T and dot my I. Because apparently I forgot to do that. There we go.
the downside with adjusting your quality in your YouTube video is the requirement for internet speed.
Yeah.
So if your internet can't handle broadcasting 1080p, then it's going to lag, it's going to be choppy, it might not be the best of quality, and it might take a while for it to catch up. You might also get audio desync.
Yeah, where it gets out of whack with...
What's going on?
Yep. The lips are moving, but
No sounds coming out.
no sounds coming out.
A couple seconds later.
It's like a bad Asian movie.
Yeah. A dubbed Asian film,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I've got my lettering in. So now I want to use my, this is where my Uniball, my black one, comes in. Because it's so fine, I can do some really neat stuff with it. So I'm going to dry this. And we're going to add some final details here and there, because I like my Uniball for this. Dry my lettering. And just to make our lettering really stand out, I'm going to use that Uniball to add a few little details. And on the back side of that lettering, just to sharpen up some of the contrast. And it's just a little bit. I'm not using a ton of it, and I'm not being too aggressive with it. So just a little here and there. And all it does is help that lettering to stand out just a little bit. I don't want a ton of it. So there we have that. A little bit there.
I had to upgrade my internet service for the Glowforge. Oh, I have no doubt.
A Glowforge. Oh.
Yeah. Glowforge. I'd love one.
Oh, so would I.
But
yeah. So I'm taking that Signo, that Uniball Signo. I love my black gel pen for this. And I'm just putting in a few little strands here and there. And little scribbles around the edges of my hat. All this does is just define a few edges and clean things up a little. I like it for a few little additional details on the eye.
just going to adjust this.
And I'm using it sparingly, and just in a few controlled spaces. Because I like that little bit of definition that it gives. And I like that kind of scribbly line. I use scribbly lines a lot, flowers and whatnot. I just like how it looks. It just helps you define things better. Now, if there's any places that you want to deepen shadows, and there's a couple of places that I would suggest, and we're going to do that right now. That's where I'm going to take a little of that Prussian blue or a little of that ultra blue deep, whatever happens to be on your palette. And you're going to come in and deepen in a few spots. Just little turnover areas in the robe. And in the hat. I just for the sake of definition, just to get things, you know, nice deep shadows where they should be. Like around that hat. And that little thing there. Just gives you a little extra.
Oh, we didn't forget the snowflakes.
Nope.
They're coming.
Snowflakes are at the very end. So again, I just like to tuck in a little with a little of that gel pen here and there. Because it's just me.
Mind you, it doesn't even need the snowflakes. It's amazing.
No, it's kind of nice as it is, but I think the snowflakes make it.
Yeah.
And besides, it's a fun technique. So, our lettering is done. I'm just going to dry this.
I'm gonna go home painting tomorrow.
Now, one of the reasons that I chose this snowflake stencil is because it has some nice little snowflakes. I kind of like...
I'll get that.
I dropped my...
Never mind.
and I turned it back on. There we go. I like this particular stencil for a couple of reasons. One, I love these lacy snowflakes. And then it also has a nice little selection of little teeny tiny snowflakes, smaller ones, and this appeals to me, especially for a piece like this, because we're going to use these smaller snowflakes to create a bit more depth and a bit more dimension. So I'm going to start in this upper corner, and I'm going to grab another clean stencil brush, if I can find a clean one. There we go. And I'm using a little bit of warm white. Use titanium white if you want to. I just find the warm white is a bit more subtle for this. And the brush is, again, almost dry. Circular fashion, change directions frequently. We don't want them fully opaque. We just want a nice bright white snowflake. So one. And then I'm going to pull a couple of these smaller ones in. Like so. And again, I'm not worried about them being fully opaque. I want them kind of soft. And where's my itty bitty one? There's an itty bitty. There he is, right there. I want that itty bitty right there. I'm going to pull a couple in here. So essentially all I'm doing is using very soft snowflakes to fill up some of that negative space. And I love this snowflake too. But again, the brush is nearly dry. I don't want this fully opaque. It wouldn't work in our favor. And I'm being very careful when I overlap that I'm not putting too much emphasis on any of this. Need that teeny tiny one in there.
Okay.
So already it's starting to fill up this space quite nicely. So we need a few down here. And again, I'm going with this lacy one. I like this particular snowflake. It's just soft and delicate, and it's not too solid, I think is the big thing with this one. And I'm going to grab, where'd that lacy one go again? There it is. Like so. And then I want a couple or three of those little ones right there. Now these ones I'm going to make a little bit more opaque because they're on a lighter color, so I want them to stand out a little bit more. So I'm going to give them a coat, then let it dry, and then I'm going to do it again. So they should be nice and bright. There we go. So I've got a few snowflakes in, and you may have noticed that I stayed away from this area because we've got a lot going on here with the lettering and the beard. And I wanted some over the jacket and this, and then I wanted a little bit brighter, but over top of everything. And then I've kept it fairly open, but it's still used up a fair amount of space. So I'm going to let those dry, but now we're going to grab some gesso. And I told you there was glitter involved. So I have glamour dust and I have some gesso. The other thing I dug out was my Duraclear Galaxy varnish. I love this stuff. And I'm going to put some sparkles in our snowflakes and our stars using that. So, palette knife. Need a nice wide blade palette knife. And we have some media gesso. I like this one because it's a little thicker. And I just opened a new jar. And I'm already halfway through it. Because it's like candy. So, we're going to put 3 snowflakes on. And I'm going to start with this one because I really love this. And I'm going to use a small amount of gesso on my palette knife. And I'm going to put a thin, even layer of gesso right over top of that snowflake. Like so. And then I'm going to carefully lift the stencil off. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do it again. Thin layer of gesso, scrape off the excess. Oops, I mucked that one up.
She was the first one into this live today.
Oh, Renee Howard.
Yeah.
Right on. Renee, you won one of our prizes today. So I'm going to actually take a piece of shop towel and wipe the back of this off because I got white gesso all over the back of the stencil and I messed that one up. So, what do I do when I mess one up?
Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun. This is what I do. I'm going to take my palette knife.
So, what is it? A 1/4 inch rake?
Rake. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, I'm going to take my palette knife and I'm going to scrape that gesso off like so. Don't panic, everybody. I'll be able to fix it. And I'm going to take a brush that's fairly stiff, like this. This is little foliage brush, and lots of water. And I'm going to scrub into it and rinse it out. And then I'm going to wash that off. Easy peasy.
No, I don't like lots of glitter.
No, he doesn't like glitter at all, which is why I used it. So I just washed that off.
She used it in spite.
Yeah. So little piece of shop towel to wipe off the excess, and then I'm going to dry it. And then we can do it again.
You did that on purpose to show us how to fix it. Thank you. That was Sheila.
Sheila knows me too.
Did it on purpose. Yeah.
So, but I'll show you what I did wrong. This is what I did wrong. I had a stencil that was bending, and I got gesso all in my hand. So, because the stencil was bending, it wasn't laying flat on the surface. So, because it wasn't laying flat on the surface, gesso bled underneath it. So now, stencil's laying on an equal size surface, and I still hooped it.
You good?
I did. Look, it's all messy.
Is your stencil bent?
I think so. It looks like it might be. Yeah, it will. And so then I'm going to come down here on the beard. I'm going to do one more. And see if I can do it without hooping it. Ta-da! Close enough.
You want glitter on your cup? That was done. As long as it doesn't come off, I am fine with
That's
glitter.
his biggest issue. He just doesn't want it to come off of the glitter.
There could be glitter on all sorts of things. If it comes off, I hate it.
Yeah. So while your gesso is still wet, you're going to generously sprinkle a little bit of glamour dust onto it. And I do mean generously. I like lots.
Do not send me glitter bombs.
No. No glitter
You
bombs.
become my nemesis at that point. You send me a glitter bomb, you're gonna get a lot of nasty stuff in the mail. Very inappropriate stuff.
So I like to tap my surface. See how that glitter jumps? It helps seat it into that wet gesso. So now I'm going to stand him up and tap him on it like that. So now we have sparkly snowflakes.
How about the cards with confetti in them? No, confetti is giant glitter.
Yep. So then you can take that excess and you can do this. And you can just tap it all back into the bottle. Ta-da!
Linda Safranco just found 3 new bottles of glamour dust in her stash.
Oh, I think I have at least that many, if not more.
Let's do another name.
Yep.
What do we got?
So now we have glittery dimensional snowflakes because now they're fully opaque, so they stand out from the other 3, the other snowflakes. So I'm just going to dry these quickly.
Come on.
And then we're going to use, I don't know if any of you have seen this stuff. You can get it at the local Michael's store. This is Duraclear Galaxy Varnish. So essentially it's Duraclear's gloss varnish with glitter in it. I love this stuff. It's like my favorite varnish. And I'm going to take it and a small round brush, and we're going to add some sparkles to our star. And I'm just going to tap a little bit of that Galaxy varnish into the center of the stars, like so. I just like how that little extra sparkle. And you can do the same thing to the centers of these snowflakes if you want to. I did, because I like my sparkles. No, I think it's just a fun addition, that little bit of glitter added to things. And so while that's drying, now that we get all that glitter in there, now we have to spatter.
Spatter!
Because I do like my spatter. I'm going to do that with a little bit of thinned titanium white this time, because I want the spatter to be on the bright side.
You'll never guess who the winner was.
Who was the winner? Linda Safranco. My gal Linda. So now I'm going to spatter this with a little bit of titanium white. I like the titanium white, especially on that blue. It really pops.
Linda Safranco just won a
rake brush.
A rake brush. So you can do the beard.
So there we go. Little bit of the titanium white. Now he looks like he's snowing outside. And I also like to do that again with a little bit of asphaltum. It's a me thing. I like to have 2 colors. And it's just a little bit. We don't need a ton of it on there. It just creates a little texture. And I focus most of it on Santa. There we go.
That is
So,
Ernie 928.
Bernie Mac.
Bernie Mac.
So, there is our Santa, our merry and bright. And that's all 3 of those.
Can you splatter the glitter varnish?
I wouldn't put water in it. You'd need to thin it out too much.
And you have projectile glitter.
And okay.
You have now weaponized
If-
glitter. And we don't want weaponized glitter.
So there is our merry and bright. And if Renee wants to spin that wheel one more time.
One more time.
One more time.
So, Bernie Mac, you got yourself a rake brush.
So, ladies, I know most of you already know this, but I'll say it anyway. Go to the front page of my website, click on the little speech bubble in the lower right-hand corner, and send us a message with your shipping information, and we will get your
Right back.
prizes out to you. They will go out in Monday's mail. And the last one will be, we will ship off the painted Santa that we did today.
You get the semi-original.
Yeah, the
Second
one we did in
original.
class. So this one will go out in the mail to Elsie Sturm.
Elsie Sturm.
So Elsie, you're going to get the Santa. That one will go out to you this week. This is a really fun, and he is really easy to paint.
Well, once you seal
So-
them up.
Okay, well, so once he's all varnished, Elsie, he will be varnished, signed, and sent out to you this week. So that is it, our merry and bright Santa.
Switch cameras here. Oh, I didn't adjust that camera. She's gonna be a little fuzzy.
I'm going to be a little fuzzy, which is no great surprise at this point on a Saturday.
Based on how things are going so far.
So far, so good.
There we go.
I hope you guys enjoyed this one. This one was a lot of fun. I enjoyed doing him, getting him ready. I think he's fun. But I'm obsessed with Santas. So a couple of things. Groupies, you're going to have a video go up either today or tomorrow for the paid membership. And it is all part of your new challenge, which is challenge number 8. So if you haven't downloaded the packet, it's on the paid membership downloads. There are no instructions. You will get those in the video. So you're going to be given a whole bunch of stuff, so you can make of that what you will, and the video will explain everything. So this time, next week, on Saturday, we are doing a Halloween treat for the tiny humans. The tiny humans.
The demons, the minions.
The minions, the demons, whatever you want to call them. So yes, so for your little trick-or-treaters, we have a little project for them on next Saturday. So join us at our usual time, 12 noon Eastern Standard or 1 p.m. Atlantic. That's our time. And what else? Don't forget, we've got 12 Days of Christmas. It's coming up first Saturday in December.
Yeah.
So mark that on your calendar. Make sure you come and watch. We've got lots of great stuff to do, and we've got a great project and quite a few other things on the go for that one.
We're going to record that right after this, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The group video is getting recorded this afternoon, and Pretty Pansies should be up this week. We didn't go live last week. Renee ended up working all night. Didn't get in until 8 o'clock in the morning. So he needed to get some sleep because he'd worked a few of those and he needed to sleep. So I appreciate your patience from last Saturday, but we will get that video up for you soon too. And what else? Oh, don't forget to check out the website. Got new patterns up, got new product in, got full stock of stencils, and we've also got a whole bunch of stencils that are on clearance. So if you're looking for a really great price on stencils, go check out the clearance bin. Check out the new products and the new patterns that we put up in the last week or so. And keep your eyes peeled on my Facebook page for a post about this new project that we're working on. So that is it for this weekend, guys. Thanks for joining me, as always.
Lots of chocolate.
Lots of chocolate. Yeah, he's using the word chocolate because he's dropping, not so subtle hints.
Not so subtle hints.
Okay, guys, that's it for us this weekend. Thanks again, as always, for coming to join us. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button. And don't forget to turn on your bell notifications so that you get notifications whenever we send messages through the community tab and when we go live and when we post new videos. And that's it. as always, love you guys. Stay safe.